Hi, this is Anne with Graphic Design How To, and today I'm going to show you how to make multiple tables with data merge in InDesign and Google Sheets. So this works really good with something like a report card where you have one student, you can fill out all the one student's kind of information, you can just set it up one time, and then you can use a spreadsheet to pull each student's information and have it populate with that. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, so step one when you're doing this is to set up your Google Sheet. And this might be something you already have set up. You can also do this in Excel, but Google Sheets are available to everyone for free if you have a Gmail account. And that is also free if you want to set one up. I have this Google Sheet set up with student names, grade levels, and then what each student got in math, English, science, and history, an average. Now for the average, I had a formula in here, so I would add these four numbers together and then divide them to get an average. And that is this right here. Under grade, I have another formula, which basically says if the average of this cell is 90 or greater, they get an A. And then 80, B, and like that. So if you don't know how to do formulas, you can actually ask ChatGPT to do them for you. And that's what I did here. And then the notes would be like a teacher's notes about this student. Now, when you set up your document, the first row, those are your column titles. And that part is important. That'll show up in InDesign. Once everything looks good, you'll want to save the file as a CSV. On Google Sheets, that's File, Download, comma separated values, CSV. And it'll go to your downloads folder. I went ahead and renamed this and put it in the right folder. And it's called Report Card Info. You can name it whatever you want. Step two is to design your report card in InDesign with tables in it. If you already know how to do this, you know how to set up tables, you already have yours set up, you can skip to this timestamp. But because some of you might not know how to do that, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make a file like this. First, I'll hit T on my keyboard to get to my text tool, and I'm just going to click and drag a box here. I'm going to put the student name here, and I'm going to make this Montserrat medium. Now, I also want to set up character styles here, so I'll select some of this text. It's exactly how I want it, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new character style. I'll call it Montserrat Regular. And really the only thing we have in here is that it's Montserrat Medium. Oops, I guess I meant medium. So it's Montserrat Medium, and it's not recording much else than the font and the style. We'll say okay. I also want the grade, what grade the student's in, and the year. And now it's time to set up my standards table. I'll go to Table, Create Table. For this one, I want a header row, and I want 5 body rows, and then 2 columns. We'll just have this be a basic table, and I'll say okay. Then I'll click and drag to make my table. Now I want my header row to be only 1 column, so I'll come up here to this little button which will merge those cells. I'll click that, and now we have just 1 column up there. I'll type standards here. Now this I want to be Montserrat bold, and I want it to be centered. I'll use my text tool to completely highlight this whole cell. I'm going to change my swatch to black and make this 30%. Then I'll type what each grade means. I'm hitting Tab to switch to the next cell. Now you'll notice one of our cells got lost. If you get back on your selection tool, you can click this handle and drag it down so that you can see your other cell. I want all of these cells to be Montserrat bold. So I'm just going to click this character style, and then I'll change medium to bold here. Then I'll click the plus button down here on character styles, and then double click in the space over here to change the properties. This will be Montserrat bold, and I actually want it based on none. We'll say okay. I'll zoom in on this, and then with my text tool selected, I can hover over the divider and pull it over, and do the same over here. Okay, and this looks all right. I'm going to select these and I'll center them. And then these, I think I actually want these to be Montserrat medium. I don't need my chart to be this wide, so I'm just going to pull it in. If you happen to click it and you see this blue outside here, you can hit Option Command C or Alt Control C on a PC to make it fit the content. And then I want it to line up over here, so I'm just going to drag it over here. Down here I'm going to have two separate tables. For the first one, I'll do Table, Create Table. This one I want to have 2 body rows and 4 columns and no header rows. And I'll say OK. And then I'll click and drag to about here, I would say. Then I'll type in Math, English, Science, and History. And for these, I want Montserrat bold, and we'll also center those. Now, if your text is a little too high up or too low, you can right-click the cell, go to Cell Options, then choose Align Center for vertical justification. And you can also mess with these cell insets to change where your text lies in the cell. Now, I want one more table, so I'm just going to hold Option or Alt and Shift to copy this table. I really only want 2 columns here, so I'm going to use my T tool, the text tool, to get right on the edge and click and drag to select the whole table. Then I'll go to Table, Table Options, and Table Setup, and we'll change our columns to 2. And I'll say OK. And that's OK, I do want to delete those columns. Now I can change my text here to average and grade. And I'm just going to center this up a little bit. I'm also going to move this over to a line right along this edge. I've selected both of these. I'll go to Window, Object and Layout, and then Align. And it'll bring up the Align panel. I'll make sure I'm aligning to the selection, and I'll choose this third one, which will align the right edges. And they're pretty close. Now I also have that Notes section, so I'm just going to grab this text box up here, hold Shift and Option or Shift and Alt, and make a copy down here. And I'm just going to type Notes as the header, and I also want this to be Montserrat bold. And I'm going to expand my text box to the size of the rest of the information. Now our report card is completely set up, and we just need to merge the information in for each student. So to do that, I'm going to go to Window, Utilities, Data Merge. I'll come up to the flyout and choose Select Data Source, and I'll navigate to that CSV file I saved earlier, and I'll open that, and that will give us those header rows that I pointed out earlier from our Google Sheet. So I'll get in this text box with my T tool, text tool, and I want my student name here. I want the grade level here. The year I'll just type in because it'll be the same for everyone. Now this student name, I want to be the Montserrat bold. It looks like our text box isn't going to be big enough. I'm just going to pull that over. I also want the grade level to be Montserrat bold and the year to be Montserrat bold in character styles. Okay, next is the math grade. So I'll click in this cell and I'll click Math. I'll hit Tab, then I'll click English, Tab, and then Science, hit Tab, History, and then with my text tool, I'll hover on the edge of the table to get that whole line. And I want everything to be Montserrat medium, and I want them to be centered inside their cells. Then I'll click over here under Average and choose Average, and Grade and choose Grade. And I'll also select these, and this time I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and just click on one of these over here. Now those 2 cells disappeared because I didn't have enough room to hold them. So I'm just going to click and drag this down. I don't think it'll look like that when it gets merged. And then we've got the notes here. I'll get my cursor where I want them to start, and I'll choose Notes right here. Now these notes, I want them to be Montserrat medium. In this whole section, I don't want hyphenation, so I need to open my paragraph panel, which is under Window. I'll go to Type in Tables and then Paragraph. And I'll make sure to uncheck hyphenate right down here. Okay, now everything looks pretty good. Now I want to fit 2 per page, so I'm going to select these things and just move them up a little bit to make sure they fit on a half page. And I'll move this up just a tad bit. Hopefully we can get 2 on a page that way. Now I'll click this little button right up here in the upper right of the Data Merge panel. And that'll bring up the Create Merge Document options. We want multiple records per page. And we want to make sure Preview the Multiple Record Layout is checked. Now you can see we're not getting 2 on a page. So let's go and look in Multiple Record Layout. I'm going to make sure this button to lock all these things is unchecked, and then I'll reduce the margin at the top and I'll reduce the bottom margin, and once I hit 0.0625, the other one jumps up. So now I have 2 on a page, which is what I want. Now I see here that I forgot to center these 2 lines, so I'll need to do that before merging. I'll cancel. It looks like somehow I lost my 2026 here, and I also want to center these. And now I'll go back and try again. I'll turn on preview. I'll choose multiple records here, and then under multi-record layout, I think I had this at 0.25, and then this one was, I believe, 0.06. Okay, and that looks much better. So now we can preview each page. You can see here I've got Alex Brown in grade 3 and Bailey Carter in grade 3, and then we can see the next 2 pages here with Chris Dalton and Dana Evans. Okay, so that looks good, and I'll say okay. Now we do get an overset text report, and it shows that for pretty much every page. So I'm going to close that and see what happened there. To find out where that's happening, you can click on each table or text box, and you can see right here, this little red plus means that there is overset text in here. I'm going to X out of this and don't save, and I'll get back to my original and see what's going on. Maybe I have an extra return or space in one of these. The notes seem to be a little low. I'm going to move those up because this doesn't actually bump down this far. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that again. We're still getting the overset text problem, but it actually isn't an issue because nothing is missing from our document. You might still want to go through and check each one and make sure all your information is on each page. But these look good. I can just cut them in half and then give them out to each student. So that is how to use data merge to create tables with different information with a standard layout. All right, I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it and you want to see more videos like this, just click on the subscribe button and the little bell next to it. You'll be notified every time a new video comes out. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.